Hi, I am Dr. Michelle Cretella, Executive Director of the American College of Pediatricians. We were founded in 2002 by a group of physicians concerned that national pediatric policy was increasingly being dictated by social agendas rather than by science, medical ethics, and the needs of children. Although there are many examples that could be cited, I will focus on just two today. In March of 1972, 10 months prior to Roe v. Wade, the American Academy of Pediatrics actually acknowledged that children's lives begin at conception in its policy statement called Age Limits of Pediatrics, which reads, quote, "The purview of pediatrics includes the growth, development, and health of the child, and therefore begins in the period prior to birth when conception is apparent," unquote. Following Roe, however, the AAP steadily backed away from this policy as it increasingly promoted abortion rights for adolescents, thereby devaluing the lives of our unborn patients, even as it validated unprecedented scientific advances in maternal fetal medicine. More recently, the AAP drew fire from a respected gender identity expert, Dr. James Cantor, for its policy on trans and gender-diverse identified youth, which actually recommends affirming transition for all children who claim a non-traditional gender identity, regardless of their age. Besides omitting the large body of research that contradicts its transition-only dogma, the AAP misrepresents the research it does cite, including references that support the very watchful waiting approach the AAP rejects. In his peer-reviewed dissection of the AAP's statement, Dr. Cantor concludes, quote, "The AAP's statement is a systematic exclusion and misrepresentation of entire literatures. Not only did AAP fail to provide compelling evidence, it failed to provide the evidence at all. Indeed, AAP's recommendations are despite the existing evidence," end quote. In truth, there is not a single long-term study to demonstrate that puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are safe and effective in transgender identifying youth. There is also emerging evidence of potential lifelong harm from these drugs, including sterilization, sexual dysfunction, osteoporosis, seizures, anxiety, heart attacks, strokes, blood clots, cancers, and more. Many medical organizations around the world, including the Australian College of Physicians, the Royal College of General Practitioners in the United Kingdom, and the Swedish National Council for Medical Ethics, characterize prescribing puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in youth as experimental and dangerous. World-renowned Swedish child psychiatrist Dr. Christopher Gillberg has referred to this as, quote, "possibly one of the greatest scandals in medical history," unquote. His neuropsychiatry research group at Gothenburg University has called for an immediate moratorium on the use of puberty-blocking drugs because of their unknown long-term effects. The vast majority of young children with gender incongruence will outgrow it by the time they are young adults. In other words, blocking puberty robs at least some of these children of a natural and healthy developmental period that is necessary for some to accept their bodies. Most gender-distressed teens are girls and boys who are anxious, depressed, traumatized, and uncomfortable with their bodies and struggling with their identity. A 2019 study confirms the findings of several case series published between 1969 and 2012, all showing that teens and even some adults can embrace their bodies through counseling alone without high-risk chemical or surgical interventions. Instead, in accordance with the irresponsible guidelines from the AAP, gender-distressed teens are being prescribed disease-inducing chemicals, sterilized, and surgically maimed by doctors. In contrast to the AAP, the American College of Pediatricians aligns itself with both science and the ethical principle of first do no harm. We value all children from the moment of their conception forward, recognize parents as the primary nurturers and educators of their children, and recommend interventions that will lead to children's optimal health. If this describes your vision of what pediatrics should be, please join us